Have you observed someone? Certainly not. They believed that they had a clear understanding of everything. The car, the clothes, the lifestyle. Everything about them looks like success. And for a moment, you feel like you're behind. You believe you should be doing more, earning more, showing more, because somehow that has become the standard. Not just being successful, but looking like it. And the strange part is, most of the time you're not comparing your life to their reality. You're comparing it to what they intend to exhibit, a version of success that's carefully presented, clean, polished, impressive, but incomplete. Because what you don't see is what it takes to maintain that image. The pressure, the cost, the trade-offs. All hidden behind what looks effortless. Here lies the wormhole. Then, when someone acquires something pricey, but when that purchase does not care about its appearance more than what it does, being good looks is the key factor. Why? Decisions start to shift. You're no longer asking what makes sense for me, you start asking how will I be perceived? And that question changes everything. Cars are not just for transportation, though. It's a signal. But the phone is more than just a tool. It's a statement. The house isn't just shelter. It's proof. Proof that you're doing well, that you're progressing, that you belong. And when things become proof, they stop being optional. They start feeling necessary. This is how spending transforms without much noise. Not all at once, but gradually. A slightly better car, a slightly nicer apartment, a slightly more expensive lifestyle. Each step feels small, feels justified, feels normal. Because everyone around you does appear to be doing the same thing. It's at this point where the illusion gains strength. Because when something is common, it stops being questioned. It starts feeling expected. And once expectations shift, your baseline shifts with it. A time when luxury was commonplace starts to feel standard, and what used to feel adequate starts to feel lacking. Not because your current condition worsened, the reason being your reference point was modified. At this point, people start to stretch, not necessarily due to a desire for more, yet they have a lack of desire to feel abandoned. So they upgrade, even when it isn't necessary, insisting that it's not comfortable but devoid of any logical foundation. Because on the surface, it works. You look the part, you fit in, there's no need to feel excluded. But underneath, something else is happening. The cost isn't just financial, it's structural. Maintaining a good image requires money. You're committing to maintaining it, and that commitment doesn't go away. It follows you month after month, decision after decision, and slowly it starts shaping your life. Your income starts getting allocated before you even receive it. Your flexibility begins to shrink. Your margin for error becomes thinner. Not because you're irresponsible, nevertheless, the framework of your vicinity has become tighter. This is the point where things become less of a focus. Because nothing feels broken, everything still works. Payments are made, bills are handled, life continues. But the space, the breathing room, is no longer there. That alters the way you think. Opportunities become harder to take because they require flexibility. Risks become harder to consider because stability becomes more important. Decisions become more cautious, not due to the expectation of their being, but because they have to be. This all began with something that appeared to be simple, just trying to look successful. There's also another layer. It becomes more challenging to observe this. The rewards are immediate. When you upgrade something, you feel it. You see the reaction. You notice the difference. It's visible. But the cost is delayed. It shows up slowly over time, even though it's easy to overlook. A slightly tighter budget, a delayed plan, a missed opportunity. Nothing dramatic, but all connected. And because it's gradual, it doesn't feel urgent. So it continues. And over time, that pattern becomes normal. You adjust, you adapt, you make it work. Even if it isn't ideal. And here lies the catch. Because now there are other factors beyond the preservation of an image. It's about maintaining consistency. You already set a precedent, and lowering that standard feels like moving backward. Even though it could help you, even though it would give you more leeway, even if it would ease the difficulties, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like loss. And people naturally avoid loss, despite the fact that the object they're holding is creating pressure. So they stay, they continue, they maintain, not out of the best interest, however, because it feels like the only one. At this point, identity comes into play. Because at some point, the lifestyle stops being something you have and becomes something you are. The nice car is yours to own. Person with the elegant lifestyle. The individual who appears to have it all together. After that identity is formed, letting go of it becomes harder. Because now the issue isn't solely about changing a routine. The objective is to change your self-perception. So instead, the structure is maintained. Even when it becomes heavier. Even when it becomes limiting. This is the location where the true cost becomes apparent. Not in what you're paying, but in what you're giving up. Time, flexibility, options, the ability to move freely, the ability to say no, the ability to change direction. All of these become slightly restricted. Not all at once, but enough to matter. There's also the factor of comparison. Because this cycle doesn't exist in isolation. It's reinforced constantly through what you see, what you scroll through, what you're exposed to. People showing the highlights, the upgrades, the wins, rarely the trade-offs, rarely the pressure, rarely the full picture. When that pattern is seen repeatedly, it shapes perception. It gives the impression of being real. Once that particular version is familiar, it starts to influence decisions.
Through means that appear to be forward-looking, even when they're not. Not by forcing behavior, but through the alteration of what feels natural. Making certain choices feel standard, making others feel unnecessary. And once that happens, the path becomes predictable. Upgrade, adjust, maintain, repeat. Until the structure becomes heavier and more challenging to elude. But perhaps more importantly is this. Looking successful and being financially stable aren't the same thing. One is visible, the other is not. One is immediate. Eventually, one becomes stronger. And when the focus shifts toward what's visible, the invisible side starts to weaken. Until eventually, it becomes noticeable. Not in how things look, but in how they feel. And that's usually in the midst of doubts. Not at the beginning, upon completion of the structure. Following the completion of their commitments. And at that point, changing direction becomes more difficult. Not impossible, but more demanding. And this brings everything back to a simple idea. Certain things may not appear prosperous. It is built to a level of its surroundings. Sometimes it's built in a way that depends on it. And that's the difference. One gives you options. The other takes them away. The next time you come across something, just look at it. That looks like success. It's worth asking. Not just what it is,